Good evening, welcome everyone. This is the legislative session for Swarthmore Borough Council on November 10th, 2025. My name is Scarlett McCahill. I'm Vice President of Borough Council, serving in the absence of President Gajewski, who is out of town this evening. Let's do our quick roll call. Mr. Boonin.
Here.
Ms. Garland.
Here.
Ms. McLeod. Here. Ms. Seymour. Here. Mr. Therian.
Here.
Mr. Spiegel.
Here.
Solicitor Walsh.
Sorry, yes.
Oh, forgive me, Carl. I'm just making that up. And Mr. Howell.
Here.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So Joe will be absent this evening. Before we get into public comment, I'd like to announce that prior to tonight's meeting, Council met in executive session to discuss a personnel matter. And that's just as a point of order for how we run our meetings here. Tonight there's just one public comment period because this is the legislative session in the month of November. So kindly make yourself known if you'd like to give public comment this evening. Share your name, your address, and your remarks in 3 minutes or less, if you would. Is there anybody out there? Hi, Rosemary.
Hello, Scarlett.
Come on up. We're glad to hear from you this evening.
It's not.
You're on.
There we go. Okay, hi, sorry. Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Rosemary Fox. I am a resident of Swarthmore, 415 Neal Avenue, and I'm the Executive Director of the Park Avenue Community Center. I'm here today with the Director of our Health and Wellness Program, Mary Thompson. My comments might go over 3 minutes and Mary will pick up the rest. First, we want to thank the boroughs for their generous support of the Park Avenue Community Center over the past 3 years. Your investment has helped us to grow, strengthen, and sustain programs that enrich the lives of so many in our community. We understand that the Finance Committee has expressed some hesitation in recommending an increase in our annual funding, citing 2 reasons. One, that the PAC Center primarily offers fee-based programming, and that, 2, our mission extends beyond Swarthmore, serving all of Delaware County. I'd like to address both of these points directly. The PAC Center offers a wide variety of low-cost and free programs made possible through the combined support of the borough, local foundations, and individual donors. These programs have a direct and measurable impact on the Swarthmore community. Currently, 70% of our participants are Swarthmore residents. 20% come from Media and Wallingford, and 10% from the surrounding areas. Of those we serve, 35% are senior citizens, directly aligning with the borough's Aging in Place Task Force recommendations to create opportunities for connection and purpose for older adults and solo seniors. One of our founding partners is the Swarthmore Senior Citizens Association, and during the summer months when they are closed, we offer a free weekly senior program that includes a free lunch and art activities, and many participants have since joined the SSCA after discovering it through this partnership. We also serve 570 families through our children and youth programs, with 90% residing within the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District. Every Friday, 24 teens participate in our Dungeons and Dragons Club, finding friendship and belonging in a safe, welcoming environment. Our Creative Living Room program hires teens as classroom assistants, and our affordable summer camps provide a vital resource to working parents. While 70% of our participants are Swarthmore residents, the remaining 30 visit from outside the borough, bringing new customers to our local businesses. Visitors dine at our restaurants, shop at our local merchants, stay to explore, supporting our shops and restaurants. The PAC Center helps build and sustain a thriving downtown that welcomes all. I'm going to invite Mary Thompson up. She will finish.
Welcome, Mary. Come on up.
Good evening, I'm Mary Thompson. I'm a Swarthmore resident. I live at 305 College Avenue. So some of our programs do have modest fees. That is true, essentially covering our rent, utilities, and ensuring our teaching artists earn a living wage. For example, our Park Avenue concert series featuring world-class musicians from the Philadelphia Orchestra is just $25 per ticket, made possible through the volunteer leadership of 2 local residents. These programs elevate Swarthmore's cultural profile and make high-quality arts experiences accessible closer to home. Our Family Live Arts cultural series is free and open to the public, which attracts at least 100 participants per event. I want to give you an idea of some of the free community programming that we have. Opportunities for people to connect and to create in community. We have the Breastfeeding Awareness Support Group twice a month, the Swarthmore Song Circle, weekly community conversations, which is quarterly, local speakers, open chess nights, weekly for all ages, free space for kids activities, days once a week. We have Pack on the Road, where we bring our resources out into the community at Cades through yoga and other tap performances, tap dance. We have an artist and resident community workshops, actually several. Open Studio Fridays for drop-in creative sessions. We have free Community Health and Wellness Week, where all of our classes are offered for free. We have a monthly new laughter yoga starting in January. We have a free drumming circle that's going to start at the winter solstice in December, but then continue monthly. And then we have reduced fee classes, $10 for Tai Chi Chuan, meditation and yoga, and red hot dance. So we also have 2 very large-scale free community events every year, Home for the Holidays and the Spring Fling, drawing hundreds of visitors to downtown Swarthmore and showcasing the creativity and warmth that define our town. We are a small staff. We have 2 full-time people and 4 part-time people making this all happen. And we have 80 local teaching assistants who in turn support the Swarthmore economy, buying meals, paying for parking, and shopping locally. In closing, if the PAC Center served only Swarthmore residents, we simply could not survive. Yet our work directly benefits the borough, economically, socially, and culturally. We're deeply grateful for the borough's continued support of $20,000. That's very helpful. However, if there's an opportunity to increase this funding for other community organizations this year, we respectfully ask that you also consider our request of $30,000 in recognition of our impact and shared commitment to community vitality. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Thanks very much, Mary. Next for public comment, please. Hi, Jeffrey, come on.
Good evening, I'm Jayatri Das. I live at 434 Drexel Place. I'm speaking tonight in my capacity as co-chair of the Swarthmore Human Relations Commission. I wanted to address the council with 2 points. First, I'd like to thank you in advance for your consideration of our modest budget request to hold a few community events next year. We brought this to you a little bit late because of the timing of our collaboration with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. They have recently really made an effort to re-engage and revitalize municipal HRCs. And so through that effort is how this collaboration began and the idea for these events began. So apologies for the late request for $1,200. But the types of events that we are planning are events around civil rights education, which is all the more important as federal support for these kinds of efforts becomes withdrawn. That efforts are greater concentrated at the local and county level. We're also hoping to lead some events in commemoration of Swarthmore's role in the last 250 years of the United States, thinking about how the broader efforts around celebrating and commemorating this milestone anniversary really plays close to home. So again, thank you for your consideration. The second piece is also for the community. We currently have some vacancies on the Human Relations Commission, and I would encourage anybody who is interested in the kind of work that we do to apply for that vacancy. We have like a one-sheet because not a lot of people know what the Human Relations Commission does. I've left a couple copies in the back. If anybody is interested in joining us, please take a look at that and contact us or the borough manager with any questions. We'd love to have you join us. And in my last few seconds, I will speak in my personal capacity that The types of perspectives that the PAC Center brings to Swarthmore from outside of our town make our town better for all of the reasons that the HRC tries to accomplish as well. And so I hope that we will think about this big picture as we make these decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jashmi. Next for public comment. Anyone out there? Hi, Jen, come on up.
I was told by Carol Nakanoff at 302 South Chester Road that I could read a comment for her. Is that correct?
Sure.
To members of Swarthmore Borough Council, I understand that you are discussing the proposal from Z360, which I know as Easy Compost, to pick up food composting from Swarthmore homes in 2026. Well, I sit on the Environmental Advisory Council, and that group has already indicated they hope it will be possible to support their bid. I wanted to write a note of my own in support since I cannot attend a meeting. I have been a happy customer of Easy Composting for about 2 years. A friend who also uses their service told me I could request an extra 5-gallon bucket, which they have supplied. Easy Compost picks up reliably every 2 weeks, and both of my buckets are completely full. We don't put shredded newspapers, pizza boxes, or yard waste in the buckets, although they currently accept all of these. We fill the buckets with kitchen scraps. The only things you cannot compost with them are meats and cheeses. Easy Compost is a small and personable operation. I tell Scott when I'm going to be away, he responds to questions, and they send reminder emails about the next pickup date. Every now and then I get notices such as this one. You and your family have helped divert 35 pounds of waste from incineration over the past 2 weeks. That's just in 2 weeks. If I estimate a lower average than that, and a couple weeks when I am away, my household is still diverting about 600 pounds of trash a year. It makes me feel very good to be able to do so. I realize that some Swarthmore residents already do backyard composting, but that isn't my thing. I do believe that the EAC can help not only with an educational effort, but that neighbors can, with time, encourage neighbors to get weight out of the trash stream, which will probably offset the extra cost of the Z360 contract. Even if you consider this in the sake of an experiment for a couple of years, I think the initiative is well worth it. I am so pleased that Swarthmore allowed bids on curbside composting this year and hope that you will move forward with this effort in 2026. Thanks very much. And then if I may add my own public comment, my name is Jennifer Fluger and I live at 513 Ogden Avenue. First of all, 3 cheers for the PAC Center. And then I just wanted to remind you that last year, Swarthmore College student Juna Saito interned with the Public Works Committee, and she conducted a waste management survey of borough residents last spring. Of the almost 500 survey responses from borough residents, 58% were in support of the initiative to offer the option of curbside collection of food scraps, with 21 opposed and 21% unsure. 21% opposed and 21% unsure. The main concerns around this contract regard cost, timing, and participation. Regarding costs, there is no getting around the fact that this program would cost some money. However, diverting organic materials from the trash reduces the public health costs, both globally and locally, of incinerating trash and generates a valuable end product. And the 10% of borough residents who already pay for a composting service would save money by stopping their private subscriptions. Regarding timing, it is in the contract for the hauler to provide educational materials. The EAC is also happy to help the Public Works Committee and borough staff develop an outreach strategy and any additional educational materials that are needed. Regarding participation, this is highly dependent on outreach. Some folks who compost at home may not participate in a curbside collection program, but some of them would participate for those materials that cannot be composted in a backyard. Folks who pay for a composting service could stop their subscriptions to these services, and folks who don't or can't currently compost may be grateful for a new food scraps collection program. We don't really know how successful a collection program will be until we try it, but the fact that 58% of survey respondents support this initiative is notable, and I encourage council to vote in favor of this program. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Next for public comment. If you're out there, we'd love to hear from you.
Jennifer's tall. Robert Schaufler, 21 Oberlin Avenue. So the college plans roughly 4 acres of plastic carpet over plastic padding on Cunningham Field. According to the scientist at Stroudwater Research Center who I talked to today, all that plastic will leach. In addition, feet, weather, and sunlight will release micro and nanoplastics. Stormwater will wash them into our streams and Little Crumb Creek, potentially poisoning pets and wildlife and requiring treatment before entering downstream drinking water from the Delaware River. Stroud is sending me information on sample collection protocols and labs that might do the analysis. I'm waiting for Becca Yurkovich, head of the Delco Sustainability Office, to put me in touch with somebody at the Delco Conservation District. I also need to remind you that the MS4 requires attention to the quality as well as the volume of stormwater runoff. And I want to ask 2 things of Borough Council tonight. Thing number 1, on November 19th, the Planning Commission meets with the college. Please commit tonight to instructing the Planning Commission to ask the college to promise to refrain from commencing work until a sample can be collected for analysis that will form a baseline for future work and future comparisons, and to promise access to storm drains for taking the samples. Thing number 2, please commit tonight to asking the EAC to add an item to their November agenda to develop a draft ordinance that, if enacted by the Borough Council, would do the following. Establish a routine testing schedule. Establish thresholds for maximum allowed contamination with criteria for when those thresholds must be updated. Require mitigation when thresholds are exceeded. Specify enforcement if testing or mitigation requirements are not met. Delineate roles, responsibilities, and funding for the testing and the mitigation. And make all data public. So I would like to remind you that decisions that implement unsustainable practices have consequences. They harm your current constituents, continue to do damage for years, or in the case of non-degradable substances like plastics, for millennia to come. And the record of this Borough Council on sustainability decisions is not encouraging, leading people to be too cynical to come out in support of doing what they know is right.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you very much.
Next for public comment, if you're out there. This is the only public comment period for this evening. All right, Steve, you're good? We'll close public comment this evening. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, folks up here, to keep ourselves organized this evening, I'd like if we could take our committee actions in advance of our budget discussion and the finance actions. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so let's do our minutes. Consideration to approve the October 14th minutes. Is there a motion in favor of that action?
So moved.
Thanks, Cindy. Any second?
Second.
Thanks, David. Any amendments or requests there? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. And Sean, do I have it right that you'd like us to table the November 3rd meeting minutes this time around?
Correct, they're not prepared yet.
No problem. Okay. David, anything on behalf of the Environment Committee?
Nothing new since last week.
Thanks so much. Jana, what you got on general government?
Nothing new. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear
Can
me?
Dave hear you? Can Mary hear you in the cheap seats back there? Yes?
No.
No, you're good.
How about now?
Yeah, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
You're perfectly fine.
So we are going to have another merchant meeting on, it's now going to be changed to the second Wednesday of every month. So that'll be this Wednesday. It is a public meeting, but we won't have a quorum, so we don't intend to have minutes, but anyone and everyone are welcome. And it's not on the agenda, and I don't know if you want to do this during finance, but I guess just responding to HRC's request for $1,200, and I do apologize that this is coming, it's late, frankly. But and again, forgive me if I'm out of turn here, but considering the amount and what they're going to put the money towards, I would ask that we consider the $1,200 for them for 2026.
Thanks for that, Sharon. Are folks comfortable with us just adding that to the roster when we look at community groups inside the budget discussion? Okay,
Okay,
thanks for raising that, and Jackie, thanks for raising that as well.
Thank you, that's it.
Okay. On behalf of Planning and Zoning Committee, no substantive changes since last week's committee report. And just one more thank you, and on behalf of all those who have contributed already to the Veterans Memorial refresh proposal from the Centennial Foundation, Sean has put the rendering out front for anyone who wants to take a peek. And he's advised, I gave the direction last week that we would take a council vote on this matter, but rather, there's not a borough commitment of resources, so rather, we've really just had the sufficient action to make sure the project is well publicized. Thanks to the Swarthmore also for getting that message out in the community as well. So any other questions or reactions on behalf of, related to that project? Go ahead, Cindy.
I know there's not supposed to, and there won't be any public financing of this, but it seems like since it's on public property, we need an agreement. We need a construction agreement or something. Is that something council needs to approve, or is that an administrative thing that gets handled?
Carl and Sean, do you have some guidance for us on that?
Yeah, so being on borough property, the borough certainly has authorization to weigh in and say, we don't like this for aesthetic reasons or, anything in the plans, but we don't need to necessarily permit it. As Scarlett said, since there's no borough money going into it, we don't need to go through any of the rigmarole that was discussed last week. If council wanted to, they could create some sort of resolution at a future meeting that could just create, document their thoughts or support for the project, but there's no requirement for it to come through any sort of formal public, like land development process or anything like that.
Right, but people can't just come and develop things on public property. It
No,
seems
they
to me
cannot.
that we have to authorize them. There should be a contractual agreement. What if they start and don't finish? It's more expensive, they run out. What happens?
As part of this process, I imagine we could create an escrow account to guard against just that type of occurrence.
I share your angst.
It's not, it's just sort of, to me,
I would think that there should be, and I don't want to do anything unnecessary to delay this worthwhile project, but that there should be some sort of a resolution and or MOU or contract that says, hey, we are doing this. What would prevent any other 501(c) from going to any public property anywhere in our borough and erecting something without our approval?
Sure, I think, we could set the standard at the minutes in this public meeting said that the council was in favor of the project, and that's over and done with, or we could have a more thorough, formalized relationship. And so whether it's a council action or whether it's an administrative decision, I'm kind of agnostic. I think your sensibility, Cindy,
I have one more thing to add.
is useful.
roles and responsibilities. Who is doing what? Is the borough responsible for anything? For hooking, yeah, I don't know, there's some water there, there's a flagpole that is borough property, it's gonna get moved. I think it just makes sense to me that we line out roles and responsibilities, who's gonna do what.
Yeah, I've had conversations with Centennial Foundation about the project going forward. Essentially, it's, right now, the plan would be for them to just come through staff. I mean, the work would be inspected, the work would be, compared to their renderings to make sure that it's not drastically different. But anything beyond that is strictly voluntary in terms of requiring them to come to a commission or council for updates or approval.
I'd be happy for it to be handled administratively. I just want it to be solid enough.
Understood. Okay. And that's probably as far as we can take this conversation for this evening, since we're not rostered as an agenda item. But thank you for Sean. Let's make a point, and I think honestly it's you and me. Let's make a point to report back into council in the committee, in the December committee report, just to make sure that the ideas that Cindy is reflecting are well addressed. But in the meantime, getting the project up and running. And trying to get started in that timetable between now and Memorial Day. Okay.
Okay, great.
That's all on behalf of Planning and Zoning Committee. Hello, Public Safety Committee. Kristen, could you talk to us about stray animals?
Yes, so we do get a lot of calls from the borough for stray animals. And they go to Brandywine, I believe is the name, I was just searching. And Sean, the fee has gone up, it's $50 a day. What was it before? I thought the price had increased.
Let me
And I apologize that I don't have it in front of me. But they charge $50 a day, and we have to take these pets somewhere. They bond them to see if they're microchipped, and they try to find them a home.
And Ray spoke to us last week about this.
Oh, good.
Actually,
Good.
in detail.
So
Very
you know a
much.
lot about
Thank
it.
you,
Thanks,
Chief
Ray.
Sutcliffe.
You're the best.
So the action step for tonight is to award that stray contract to the same vendor that we've been using year over year with good success.
Okay, Sean, you don't have to frantically look for this anymore.
Yeah, I don't have
covered all of it last week. I know the price went up a little bit,
It went up, I believe it was $3.
But not a lot.
Ray, do you remember offhand? It was
I believe it went
$3.
up to 50, maybe went up $4 a
Okay,
month,
so not a lot.
or $4 a day, and then I believe it went up $6 a month, roughly.
Yeah, that sounds about
Okay.
right.
But
So
there's
this
really
is-
no other, there's no other shop out there really either. So.
Okay. Questions or reactions, discussion on this topic? Then all in favor of awarding Brandywine the Borough Stray contract for 2026? Is there a motion in favor of that action?
So moved.
Thank you. And
Second.
Thank you. So that's a Kristen to Jana. Motion and second. Forgive me. Any discussion? Great. Now, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you much. Anything else, public safety? Okay. Public Works. Hi, Jared. What you got for us?
Hello. First, we have consideration to award the Little Crumb Creek Park site prep contract to Premier Concrete in the amount of $68,450. So I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kristen. Any discussion? We had good color on this last week, for those of us who were here. David, anything?
There was the question of how it compared to what we had budgeted in the project. There was some room, as I remember, in the project from the gazebo and some other cost cuts that Jared and the committee worked on, but
Yeah, I spoke with Eric, and forgive me, I don't recall the specific figure, but it is under what we had budgeted.
Thank you.
As a refresher, I think it was $60,000 in change for the gazebo that we got back. There was a $30,000 contribution from the college. That more than covers it.
Great.
I feel like there were some other funds maybe also sprinkled in there that I'm forgetting. But
Great. Sue, do you want to come to the dais and speak to this as well?
I don't want to, but I will.
Gee, thanks.
Thanks, Sue.
Because I'm short.
It was the gazebo, for removing the gazebo, whatever, I think it was 89,000 is the number that I've heard several times. So that money was going to go as well into site prep. So site prep was $30,000 from the college and whatever was left over, because I was begging for other things out of that, so I know.
Very good. So the upshot, are we all on the same page that the upshot is the site prep costs, the actual costs, now that we see something that are lower than we had anticipated at the inception of the project? Well, thank you to everybody who dug in to make that happen. Thanks for that, Sue.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion on this point? So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Jared, what's next?
Next, we have consideration to award our solid waste or our trash bid. And I'll move to award the solid waste contract to B&L Disposal.
Is there a second? Okay, Jared and David on that. Discussion on this point, if any. You know,
I'd
this
just
is
like
this
to
was
make
another one
sure-
we talked about thoroughly
I'd
last
just
week.
like to make sure that we say that solid waste contract includes bulk trash, recycling.
Solid waste, recycling, bulk trash, and yard waste is what's included under this contract.
Great. Other clarifications? We're ready to call the question? All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. What else you got, Jared?
Okay, last on the list is the consideration to award the food scraps contract. This is curbside composting collection. And I will make the motion to award the 2026 to 2028 food scraps contract to Z360.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion.
My hesitation is that it's relatively expensive for, we don't know how many people are going to participate. I agree it's a good goal, but is it something we want to ask people to, everybody to pay more for?
What is the cost? Because I know I pay the Green Bucket folks for mine. What does it cost?
The cost, it depends on the frequency. If bi-weekly collection were selected, the annual cost would be $149,000 throughout the borough.
Which is about $100 per household, which is less than you or I pay as Green Bucket customers.
Which I love, but I choose to do that. I guess my only concern is we are looking at a budget where we are adding an emergency services tax. The price of everything in the economy is going up. I think a lot of people in this community are very environmentally aware and recycle and compost already. So I have always supported this from the moment we got here about doing a pilot program like what they do in media, and then I understood that we couldn't do that. But I don't know if this is the year. So I would love to hear what my colleagues think.
I'll jump in. We don't compost because we haven't been served on a silver platter like I feel like this would be, and clearly we would if it was that easy as we're suggesting it potentially could be. And I get your point about this year may not be the year, but I do feel like that could be kicked every year because when is.
That's what I was just going to say. When is the good year? I know.
So I get it.
And something, and Jen mentioned it, I believe in one of her remarks, one of the things we're doing is taking the heaviest waste out of our trash stream that we're giving to B&L. So in all probability, there are no guarantees, and I think we need to work with the vendor to make sure we get good reporting of data, et cetera, that the cost, the tonnage is going to go down, and those costs will go up, and there will be some offsets.
Understood. That makes sense.
To add a little bit more to the conversation, I didn't hear it mentioned last week in the meeting recording, but this also, if this is a successful initiative, sets us up for success potentially with a pay-as-you-throw program. This could just be the first step of revitalizing our waste collection and making sure that our costs are down and the waste is going into the correct waste streams.
Okay. Okay. Other comments or questions for the benefit of the group's deliberation? All right.
I'll also mirror, there will be long-term cost savings, or I wouldn't say will, but there's a high probability as we're taking the heaviest waste out that this would translate to lower costs long-term.
So to be clear on what we're deciding on, so to be clear on what we're deciding on, if you're looking at the bid sheet, we're looking at the bi-weekly year one 149K commitment in the 2026 budget. There's an option, but not an obligation, to continue this service in 27 and 28. Sean, do I have all that right?
Correct.
Okay, so.
And we also have the option of, as appropriate and pending further consideration and possibly even rebidding, but we have the option right now of moving yard waste into this program at an additional cost, but a savings in the yard waste component as bid by B&L that we just approved.
During 2027?
During 2027, yes.
Yep, okay. Cool.
So this is for one 5-gallon bucket, or is there an option for a second 5-gallon bucket at additional fee?
Yes, going through the bid responses, the vendor Z360 indicated that individual customers interested in a second or multiple buckets could contact them and they have a price for that.
They would bill them individually?
They would sell them the second bucket.
Oh, but they
For
would collect it.
one time.
So they would
sales
collect
for
at the same cadence,
fee.
yes.
Okay.
And the other point of clarification that we talked about last week was that this is a service to residences. This is not a service, this 149 bi-weekly is not a commercial service. The way we've had commercial recycling increased.
Yeah, the bid specifications offer a second pricing for commercial services. That would be $376 a year for a commercial business who would also get the same 5-gallon bucket.
And they would be opting in.
Correct.
That 376 would be a pass-through cost to the commercial business.
Correct.
Okay, right, it's not we're picking up the tab as the public. Okay, very good. Anything else that helps us make this discrete decision point for the upcoming year? All right, then all in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed?
I'll just say no.
Okay.
So it's good best.
Motion passes 5-1. All right. Jared, anything else you've got for us from Public Works Committee?
Our next meeting will be on the 20th at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you much. Sean, do you need a minute to?
So if I could just get the motion again for the food scraps was?
The 149 bi-weekly option.
Okay. And that was Jared and
Jared to
Yes.
David,
Okay.
passing 5-1 with Cindy in dissent.
All good?
Okay. Okay, very good. Hi Cindy, over to you. You've got all the rest of the goods. All the rest of the goods for today. Cindy, would you take care of these housekeeping matters at the top of your roster? And then Sean, you're on deck. Do you want me to get out of the way of this projector?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to move for approval of our October Finance Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was 3 to nothing. We have bills to pay, the total $851,777.30. I would like to make a motion to authorize payment. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wire, I'd like to move that we authorize the wire transfers, ratify them to the total of $6,192.91.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kristen. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Let's see. You want to do the fee schedule things too?
I think what makes sense to me, you all feel free to contrast. What makes sense to me is that we do our budget work and then we come back into advertising the fee schedule.
Then we'll
and
have a bunch of plugins.
Everybody comfortable with that approach? Okay. So, last,
Can I do the financial report for October?
that just sounds fine.
And then we'll
Forgive me. Go
get
ahead.
into the numbers.
You got it.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at the totals. I didn't dig into the details, and just note that we are spending money at a pretty rapid clip, but we had more obligations than we thought we were going to, or that were budgeted, because its reserves are playing in. And also revenues are up. So that's a good story, but
Yes.
Sean, what else would you like to?
Oh, I was just gonna
comment
say,
on?
that there's some major outliers in this month. We cut some big checks for, among other things, the road program and the construction work at Henderson Field. So there's a few six-figure sums that wouldn't be in your average monthly budget included in there.
Very good. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Now the main event, exactly. So what, how I propose we proceed, Sean will give us an update on the budget, edits made since last week's discussion. Then we'll go back to the top. We'll workshop expense side decision points, and then revenue side decision points last. I believe, listen up for the things that are near and dear to your heart. I believe the stopping points on the expense side that we should discuss will be community group contributions. Let's just roll through each of these one more time. The $30,000 for business development position or combined position with a finance role. Pay for elected officials. And then reserve amount to emergency services. And then revenue side, discussion on the structure of any revenue increase, EST versus property tax is the only one that I'm aware of. Who's got other topics they'd like to add to the shopping list? Or did I catch them from last week?
I'd like to include Henderson Field as an expense.
Expense side? Sure. Okay, great. So we know what we're up to. And that's not to suppress anyone. If you have get a bright idea as we're going through or as we're hearing from Sean, thanks Virginia. Hopefully this gets the job done. So Sean, what you got?
Okay, let's turn the lights
for us
off.
since last week?
Can we turn the lights off?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Scarlett. So I'll just begin with a couple of just baseline announcements with this budget. So this budget currently contemplates the inclusion of can everybody hear me? Of an emergency services tax at the 0.5 mil, which equates to $321,950, and shows a current budget surplus. You wanted to start with expenditures, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, of just under $35,000. So indicated in red here are items that have been updated since the meeting last Monday. If I just go through those, there's a couple of major changes. Obviously tonight, council just made a decision on the trash collection fees. So those will increase by about 10% with the inclusion of a food scraps collection, but those even out the revenue and expenditure side. So what we're going to see is that a number will go up on this side of the balance sheet and equally on the other. Trash was sort of the big variable in the last one, but there have been some other changes that have been included in here. One, we go down to grant matching funds, this line in yellow. Here we have now also included money from a grant for Little Crum Creek, the stream restoration grant. That was awarded in the amount of $694,000. However, there are some project costs that are going to be borne by the borough. This is because while the CFA-LSA grant does not require any match, it limits the amount of engineering and permitting costs to 10% of the grant project. A stream restoration project requires a lot of DEP permitting, so Eric has estimated that we are going to exceed that 10% cap by about $31,000. So here again, there is a figure of $694,000 that is added to the expenditure side. The revenue side is also seeing that $694,000 increase in grant revenue. However, the expenditure side also has that $31,000 coming out of our surplus that was projected a week ago. So,
And can you speak to the timing and the certainty of the timing, if we know? This is
certainly not going to happen in 2025 because the work needs to be RFP'd. So between advertising and meeting schedules, this couldn't happen in 2025, but is certainly looking like a 2026 project.
Thank you.
Moving on down, hydrant rental. I did hear from Aqua, I got at least half the answer, which is that the hydrant fees were raised 12% in February of 2025. You'll notice the delta between $26,000 and $40,006 is greater than 12%. I'm still waiting to hear when the last hydrant rental fee increase was prior to that. I'm not sure if this is something that just missed past budgets or if there was some other anomaly last year, but in either case, we are planning on a $40,006 expense based off the new fee. Grants, we just covered that. So admin, I'll add that $12,000 has gone in there as an earmark for new finance software. If we do get a recommendation from our finance consultants that we're moving away from our existing software, I estimate the new cost would be about $12,000 more for something you would typically see in the municipal finance field. So again, we could get good news. They could come back and say what you have works as well as any of these other alternatives for your situation, and not need to implement that, but it's in there as an earmark. So in summary, yes, our surplus has decreased from roughly just under $100,000 to its current $34,793. And that is before we've contemplated changing any of those allocations to community groups.
Let's discuss that.
Okay, so Sean, thanks for that. Questions or reactions? Or if not, let's go topic by topic. So let's dig in on our community group contributions. I'd like us to please start with the library. So the decision point where we left things last week was to award $32,000 or $40,000 to the library. What is the sentiment of the group tonight?
I think everyone received the email from Alec about if we went from the additional 32K to increasing it by another 7 to 40K and the various things that they would allocate that 7K to. It seems like a penny wise, pound foolish. I think the library is such a critical piece of the borough, and I think $7,000 is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I want to second what Jana said. It's all for COLA, and just to raise their salaries. So support it.
And seeing that there is room in our bottom line, I would support it too.
Any contrasting views on this?
Well, before we say that we have room in the bottom line, we see this $35,000 surplus. If we were to, and I'm not saying we will, but if we were to take the reserve fund and the EST out, there'd be a $71,000 approximately reduction in our, so we'd be at a $40,000 deficit up there on the screen. So I just want people to know that that's where we are because one number exceeds the other.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Because I know that this is an issue near and dear to your heart, and we've gotten some emails on it. Is this, should we go ahead and vote on the emergency services tax so that this isn't part of every discussion, or?
Well, I'm
Can I
just
say it back
raising.
to you, David, with what you're saying? Chris and I'm open to that, and I'm open to whatever helps people to stay organized in their thoughts, right? And we're juggling a number of decision points. David, you're drawing, I wonder if you could say your point one more time. Right now, our assumption is that we have a surplus of 34 grand, and you are interested in a portion of the discussion tonight that is about the total dollars allocated to emergency services reserve. And is that where you're trying to draw us to understand the relationship between funding the reserve and funding the everything else?
Right. So
Okay.
what we have in the budget, an emergency services reserve line at $250,000. And we have an emergency services tax at $322,000, which, by the way, I think understates that tax because it does not include, to the best of my knowledge, anything for a tax that would be put on the new residents at 110 Park. So another $20,000 maybe, but that's
Okay,
just
work
another.
with the figures.
But just with the figures that we have here. So
Well,
this creates, those two assumptions create in and of themselves a $72,000 surplus. If you say, oh, that $72,000 surplus did not exist and you had a $35,000 surplus on the bottom line, the yellow line that we were just seeing earlier, we would have a deficit. So I just want us to know that
these expenses.
I don't think we need to take things out of in any particular order. I just think we need to, when we say, oh, where are we? Well, that's really where we are.
Okay, and so you're contrasting the decision point, what is our deficit or our surplus with or without the 0.5 mil EST as budgeted here? And you're saying, remember that that's a lever and variable we can change.
Do we need to vote on that reserve, is a question, I guess?
I think interior to our decision points, just like, I would like us to call the question as we need.
I would like to call that question so we can be done with that conversation. There's been a lot of email traffic on that, one-sided. It might just make the rest of the conversation go faster.
well, and my position is that the library request should be able to stand on its own. I think there may be room to have a lesser EST millage and have a lesser reserve, but that doesn't have anything to do with what the library requested.
I see it both ways. Chris, in the order of operations that you're proposing, which actually is the same as the order of operations David requested in advance of this meeting. And I said, oh, I think more people are thinking the way that Cindy and I are thinking, so darn if you do, darn if you don't. So,
It's fine.
is that
I
okay?
was just
So
trying
let's
to-
try to roll through
We
expense,
heard you.
and if we're stuck, let's call the question on EST. Because my thinking was, knowing what the total bar tab is, right, tells me, do I want to, irrespective of EST versus property tax, for me, tells me, do I want to be voting at 0.5 mils or I'm sorry, 0.05 or 0.01 or somewhere in between?
Right.
Okay, so, all right, so, thanks library folks, just being first up at that. I hear a number of voices in support of modeling at $40,000. Are we comfortable with making that edit in the document now?
I would just say that when I read over the thoughtful analysis presented by the library, I was more impressed by their request for the 32 than, and I sort of lost my way in trying to figure out where's this extra 8 going and why is it important? So I was more comfortable with the 32.
Okay. So, is there someone who, so presently we have 32, correct, Sean? I'm going to kind of talk back and forth.
Yes.
Thanks for calling over my head. And is there a motion to amend?
I'd like to make a motion to amend it to, the delta to 40K.
Okay, so
Second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Thanks, David. So that's 5-1, Elise. And Elise, we're at the top of a long marching list of interior decision points that are going to make these minutes such a delight to read and produce. I'll try to catch things along with you.
Okay, that'd be
Okay.
fine. Yep.
Okay. So that's so now we're modeling $40,000 to the library. Let's move on to the PAC Center. Okay. The decision point where we left things last week was funding at $20,000 or $30,000. Currently, we're modeling $20,000. Anyone got a view on that?
I'd like to throw it out there to split the difference, and give them an extra 5 on top of the 20 that we are currently suggesting, considering the 2 speakers that were here tonight and some of the emails that we've received, and the fact that I'm sure everyone in this room has somehow benefited or participated in something at the PAC Center.
Is that a motion?
Thanks, Jenna.
I'll make a motion to increase their funding to 25K.
How's that meant for folks? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. And discussion? I could
Where
live
are
with
we
that.
now?
We're at 20.
We're at 15
just-
for the PAC Center.
No, that's SRA.
That's SRI.
No, this is PAC.
That's
We're
back.
talking about
That
that.
was 20.
Right. Well, I'm just
In the red
seeing what's
sheet,
on the
So
screen.
yeah, on the
In the summary sheet, it's 20.
Sean, maybe there's a cell that's not linking.
Yeah, they're
In your work.
The sell and expenditures was just like a hard-coded number.
Okay,
That's what we
I
talked
will-
about, yes, last week.
I will check into that.
Okay, but for the purposes of the decision making, this total surplus number assumes $15,000. So let's all just revise our thoughts. Yes, if you're on the tab 2 expenditures, we see 15K there. So the 2025 allocation was $10,000.
No.
No?
The 34K, it's rolling up to this, which is rolling up to this, which is including 20K, the hard-coded number. So this 34K delta is.
Oh, forgive me, my goodness. Okay, great.
Jana lives in Excel. She's really good at it.
Hallelujah. Okay, so here we are in cell E89.
Thanks,
Living
Jana.
our best lives. Thank you, Jana. And, okay, so from $20,000 to $25,000, 2025, we funded at 20. $25,000 is on the table for 2026.
I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that was a Jana motion, seconded by Kristen, that passed 6-0 to award at $25,000. And that's gonna have us move on to the seniors. The seniors request was $25,000 last year. $25,000 is what we have modeled this year. And we left things at the end of the week last week. We were wondering if we could fund their full request, which would bring us to $27,500. Does that track Jana?
That tracks, and just to add a little bit of color, I think, I don't have my exact notes in front of me, but they haven't seen an increase, I think, they said in 7 to 8 years. So I would make a motion to increase their budget to 27.5.
Second.
All right, so that's another Janet and Kristen. Motion on the table to increase that allocation to 27.5. How does that land for folks?
I should note that we got a very nice note from the seniors saying they understand that we couldn't fund them, or we were considering not funding them at the full 25,000, and they were very appreciative of the 25,000 that they were funded.
Thanks for that. Does that factor into your decision making on this topic?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the,
And that was when our budget was super tight, was when we were actually really red, in the red.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So the action before us is consideration of 27.5 rather than 25. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so that motion passes. That's another Janet to Kristen motion that passes 4-2. Boone and McCahill dissenting. And, great. Yes, I'd like to do HRC and then we'll go to SRA.
Oh, whatever order you want.
Yep, let's do HRC next. Okay, so HRC is this late breaking request for $1,200. And that's, so Jana and Geoffrey were speaking to that topic tonight. Is there a motion to add that to our agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to add the $1,200. I get that they're a little late coming in, but considering what Geoffrey mentioned, and considering it's only $1,200, I think it's a worthy cause.
Okay, I'd second that motion. Discussion or?
I'd like to have seen more detailed budget analysis of exactly what these dollars were going to be used for. We've got the capability that they could come in with a specific request for a specific event. And at this late date, I think it would be the proper precedent to have them follow that path rather than us, approving a line item in the budget.
Okay. And so Sean, if this group came mid-year or even in January next year, they really were proposing 2 community events, one in January in collaboration with PAC Center. And if there was I'm just making stuff up, if there was a $500 cost associated and it was the will of council to move forward funding a specific event, would that be an aggravation and hardship for you?
No,
Where would we draw those funds from if we didn't provide for them tonight?
it would depend upon the request. If there was a line item that pertained to that, I'm thinking like if they had something related to training for their membership, we have an existing line item for that. If it was something event related, we have a line item for that. If it was something completely new, we could draw it or bill it to miscellaneous and
So you have
reconcile
some
that.
flexibility
That makes sense.
if there was something that folks wanted to see with a little more detail down the line. Just to simplify things, if it was funding tonight or funding with a little more detail based on an event proposal, is there one that's more appealing than the other to this group?
Do we have any detail?
They did send an email around to us. They're looking to host something at the PAC Center for MLK Day to discuss, status of civil rights, et cetera. And then a couple of events around the, I'm gonna get this mixed. The
250th.
Semi-quincentennial.
Ooh,
Oh,
go
sorry.
Cindy.
Yes, I lived it.
Yeah.
You lived it?
Well,
Yeah, I know.
I get what David's saying, and considering the amount of money and flexibility I'm hearing from Sean, I'll pull back my motion.
Well, before you do that, I think that maybe they don't have plans because they can't offer a speaker a fee until they know they have something to offer. So,
Well, I'm sorry.
yeah, so I think there's the other side of the coin is,
Well, we wouldn't have a final budget until December, and they could come back to us in December and say, oh, here's a specific proposal or a specific thing,
that's
approve
too
it.
late.
I don't think they're gonna know that, and again, I think it's $1,200. I think the event is in January.
I need to lock in a speaker if they want anything.
So they've given us the name and title of the speaker who I can vouch for as an excellent state leader and resource, and so I don't know that necessarily the cost is an honorarium for Chad Lassiter, who is the executive director of the state HRC, and a very dynamic speaker. Rather, the incidental cost of hosting the event at the PAC Center. And, so is there an appetite in this group to get the HRC started with a lower amount of money? Right, is that a possibility? Could we make an informed estimate that says, get the January event done in $500, something like that, and then come back with a more fulsome plan for the 250th anniversary?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. So then I'll motion to fund the HRC at $500. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So, any further discussion on that? Okay, then all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that, so the Janice and Scarlett motion for $1,200 was tabled or amended, I suppose, really. And that's a $500 award. Okay, great. And, okay, so SRI. So Swarthmore Recreation was previously funded at, are we ready to move on to SRI? Yes, okay. So they were previously funded at $10,000 in 2025. Currently we're modeling $15,000. Is there a further discussion point on this, or are we comfortable with $15,000?
I think that's what they requested.
It is what they requested, but we were missing, Jared, we were missing your leadership last week. And we just didn't want to miss the chance that we were missing anything on that. But that would be funding their full request, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, great. There you go, that's an easy one. Okay, anything else by way of any other community groups? That's the end of our list on community groups. Sean, so far so good? Okay. So then I'd like to move us to,
I'm sorry.
please.
The mural from STC.
It's in there.
Okay. Sorry,
Eight
should I look at you?
$8 grand?
Yes, thank you.
That's like 3 memos ago. Sean's got us. Next,
She'll never be
next.
too sure.
Still now? I think that is the thing I care about still here now is totally appropriate.
Yep.
Thank you for modeling
Yep.
the desired accountability point. It's all good? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, community groups? You got it? Let's talk next about the $30,000 for the business development position or combined position with the finance role. For Kristen and Jared's benefit, recapping what we talked about last week was that we were comfortable with giving the future council the latitude to decide how would we use an additional $30,000 in gross payroll pay, either for a part-time business development position in alignment with the Main Street America program or that ilk, or to increase the salary for a combined business development and finance job role, an evolution from our existing staffing model. And Sean has been working with Divot to workshop what a job description could look like. And we aren't in a position to say where that $30,000 should go directly. Are you comfortable with that synthesis?
Yes.
Okay. Please.
Or, maybe not a part-time business development, depends on what the job turns out to be, how long it's sort of vacant, if we don't
That's
hire
true.
until later in the year.
Sure.
a lot of things.
We're
some
really
things might
leaving
be
our next year's
circumstantial.
council with max flexibility on this, honestly. Which we were seeing, which I took away as a strength, that folks were saying we wanted to be able to see this continue to work through.
And I wholly concur, and I just go even further and say that Sean, as he's moving this process forward and trying to dedicate resources to this function, could be saying, hold it, I've got a really strong finance person, it's going to take some finance off my desk, and I want to be the principal point of contact. I don't want to limit
Sure.
any of that.
Sure.
It's, you know, we're saying, our business community says, we really could use some extra resources in this area, and we're being responsive to them.
Thanks for that.
And so does our historic preservation community say.
Very good, here, here. And so, Sean, this is, the $30,000 is currently modeled in this budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there is not necessarily an action point, just heads up, we're still all good with this?
It's in there, yeah.
All right, so, we're gonna move past that one, great. Okay, so next let's, double check, what we have allocated for pay for elected officials. Sean, so as a reminder, 2026 is the first year, that pay for mayor and council member roles will go into effect. And by my best count, read it in the news from last week's election, we have 5 council members who would be eligible for pay and 1 mayor who would be eligible for pay. So I believe, Sean, in this budget, we're modeling $28,000 as the max anticipated cost in pay for elected officials.
Yeah, it's right over your head, but you can't see it. 29,373 is
Okay.
current total.
Okay,
So
great.
is this how it's gonna work every year? Because I feel like this is kind of setting us up for people to not take the money, and it really is, the reason most of us, I think, around this area voted for this is because we understand the importance of the responsibility that this position holds.
Sure.
So I just wonder why, I know, David, I saw in some of your emails that you had done a survey of some folks.
I
At some
have not
point-
surveyed, I've heard from people,
Okay.
and I've heard other people who've done surveys, so I'm waiting to hear more right now.
Sure. So Kristen, do you mind saying the end of your thought? What is the, what do you think is the best way? Right now, we have money prepared for every single eligible elected official to take the pay that we
I just want to make
created
sure
for
that we
them.
fund for
Yeah.
every single person to possibly take it, and it is my hope that they do.
Okay, and so really, incoming or re-elected elected officials can make that decision when they're sworn in January. Sean, do you have a past procedure from other communities? This is new to us.
Yeah.
When or how people sign up to get paid?
So in one instance in the past, I've seen this happen, and it was an email from me telling them, I need your W-2 information
Yeah.
prior to the end of the year. So, I mean, administratively, we'd have to handle it that way. I don't know how we would handle somebody mid-year changing their mind if they were to, decide that they wanted to begin receiving pay. I don't know if their beginning of the year decision is binding throughout the year.
I think that would be a Bob decision, and Carl, if you have other communities that you advise on this matter, I think for tonight, we don't have to have every procedure that's brand new to us, but we do need to know, is there any revision to be made to this 29 and change assumption or not? And I think it's fine if the answer is no. But I know that Jana and David asked that we think this through together. So, Carl, do you mind speaking to this if you have any procedures?
Well, I think you should, I think you should budget for everyone to take.
Okay.
And the question of whether someone can change their mind in another year, I think they could.
Sure. Okay, thanks for that. Jana?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, because Kristen alluded to, and David, you know, I appreciate you, we frequently call each other Batman and Robin. But, you know, the emails that were circulated that said 4 out of 7 council members and the mayor had planned to decline their pay starting 2026, I feel like that puts pressure on folks, and it gives the impression that declining the pay is, you know, the right choice. And we did vote on this. I looked back in the notes in November 2024, where it did pass, and you did vote against the measure, and you lost. So I feel like these emails almost like circumvent that decision, and it makes people that assumed that they were going to take it that they ultimately shouldn't. And I hope I quote you well, but I remember you saying, and I've used this quote often, that council compensation was approved to make service accessible to all, not just the rich, retired, or well-resourced. Accepting the pay supports that goal. And so I feel like if someone does not want the pay, then maybe they donate it to a local charity, or maybe they donate it back to the borough. But we should ultimately respect the process and the vote and each other's independence, and not undo informally decisions that we made 2 years ago.
Okay. And if you recall, that resolution also said that eligible elected officials could refuse the pay. So that was part of it.
I think part of it's just the emails, David. There are a lot of emails.
Okay, so let's do the last point on this. And David, you have something for the benefit of the financial modeling for the budget.
Yes.
What you got?
As I've said, I believe that we've made numerous conservative assumptions about revenues and costs, and this would be yet another conservative assumption.
Sure.
If we know going in, or have a reasonable reason to think that going in, some of our elected officials would not be accepting compensation.
On a dollars and cents.
Right.
Saying, hey, what's the most accurate number we could put in the model? And do you hear the feedback also? It says like, ooh, let's make this as open a resource available to folks without any, you know, kind of wink and nod that says it's here but it's not here, that kind of thing, right? You don't want to lean on anybody one way or the other. I think is the feedback here.
Right. I don't think anybody's leaned on anybody as far as I know.
Okay, that's okay.
I also think that when people muse about whether they might take the pay or not, especially if they haven't been on council, they don't know how much work it is.
There you go. There you go. Well, phone a friend up here, and you'll get the real talk. Okay. So I think I hear us landing that we want to keep this full figure modeled. There may be some savings, as David points out. Carl advises us that we should have the figure there. And would anyone like to continue further? Does that sound okay? Okay, very good. So that was paid for elected officials. And the last one I've got on the expense side, is that true? Y'all are rocking it, is Henderson Field. So Sean, do you mind reminding us, this is grant match, correct?
Yes, and forgive me, I'm just pulling this up. Okay, so this line right here. So during our finance committee, the finance committee meetings this year, there was a decision made in the interest of just sort of financial transparency to report any grants that have been approved for the borough and budget the grant money as a revenue and any match as an expenditure. So this line item includes 2 grants specifically. The Arley grant, which is a matched PennDOT grant for signals improvements, and the Henderson Field grant. The Finance Committee spent a good deal of time discussing Henderson Field because that project was underway in 2025, is wrapping up or is wrapped up largely now. So much of those match funds would be spent in fiscal year 25 and not 26. Hence a reduction in the amount of money we needed to budget for next year. I spoke with Eric, and he believes that most of those expenditures will be paid by the December council meeting. and not roll over into 2026. So we've updated this to reflect a 75% of the match being spent and leaving $15,200 unspent in 2026.
So, thank you for that. And is there a place on the revenue side that I should be, I mean, it looks like it would be told. Would there still be a revenue offset in 2026? No. On Henderson Field,
Yes. Oh.
right? If we're saying this is just the balance of the match. I'm curious to understand just from the outside looking in, is the expense and the revenue offsetting on both sides of the ledger here?
We haven't quite gotten there. We have on some of the projects on that, on the one with the $31,000 extra cost. There were cost and revenues.
Stream restoration.
Stream restoration, but there weren't on these other two projects. We were just looking at our contributions. So call it a work in progress as we move towards, more complete and transparent budgeting. We can debate, and I don't think this is the time for it, how we show those types of contributions. Should there be a pot? Should we be? That's one of the things we use our capital reserves for, etc. And it's one of the reasons that, I'm not saying every dollar has to be fully reflected so that we have a chance to catch up on those things. I'm basically saying that project is a 2025 project. I live across the street from it.
Right,
I
you're
see
seeing it daily.
I see it day by day. If the equipment's not out of there by the end of this week, I'd be surprised. And I'd say, okay, take the $15,000 out of the budget.
How does that relate to you, Sean or Cindy?
So my thought here is, we won't probably have all of the expenditures before the December meeting. I hope I'm wrong there, but the looking at the scenarios ahead, it, in my mind, makes more sense to risk putting $15,400 into the 2026 reserves as if it's unspent or spent in 2025, rather than pull from those reserves to make up for it if we didn't budget it.
Okay. How does that land for others?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Makes
Other
sense.
folks? So David, you'd like to say, hey, let's assume, or let's ask for those bills, right? So we really tie it up at 25. There's not additional revenues to recognize. Kristen says no problem. So do other people have a view?
I'll let other people go.
Thank you.
I was, from listening, Sean, to you, I was thinking the 15 was our the match that we would need to contribute, that maybe we spent all of the incoming grant money in 25, so there's no incoming money for 26.
Right, that sounds like that's right. There's not a revenue to recognize. It was recognized in
So I was
25.
trying to go
That
back
makes
to
sense to me, okay?
And
Brings me up to speed.
The 15 is if we still need to match something.
Well, the grant award dictates what those matching funds were for. If I'm recalling correctly, they were for engineering fees that may not be received or may not be billed by that point. Remember that our engineer is still going to be inspecting the work and everything after it takes place. So some of that could come after our December meetings when our last bills list will be approved for the year.
So, apropos of a timing question, Dave has a timing question for us. He needs to change his tape.
I just need one minute, Council.
Okay, so let's take just a quick minute, go ahead, and then we'll come back and call this question.